Around 2 years ago, I switched to an iPhone despite being a lifelong Android user. So in this video, I want to talk to you about how these 2 years have been. Have the transition been smooth? Have I wanted to go back to Android? And if you've recently switched to an iPhone, I want to talk about a few things that I still miss from using Android. Firstly, the reason I switched is not the usual answer. To be honest with you, I was not enticed by the idea of the Apple ecosystem at all. I have a dedicated video that describes my reason to leave Android, but in a nutshell, iOS had leapfrogged Android when it comes to automation. And with the release of the iOS Shortcuts application, it had become 10 times easier on the iOS platform. I love everything that iOS 13 did with shortcuts for the iPhone's models, and 2 years later today, it has improved drastically with iOS 15 as well. On the hardware side of things, I was moving from a Galaxy S9. At the time, it was one of the best Galaxy devices you could buy, but I bought it used for $400. At first, it felt like a downgrade. I was moving from a 2K AMOLED display that had punchy colors and deeper blacks to an LCD display that was barely 720p. It also had a notch. I don't know if you guys know, but I hate the notch no matter how many iPhones I buy. Unless they stop making notches, they're not good engineers, in my opinion at least. No hate or anything, no hate for Apple or anything. It's just that if you make a bad design, you're a bad engineer. What else? In addition to that, I lost a USB-C port, a fingerprint scanner, especially right when the pandemic was about to start. That kind of hurt. And if iOS was not as good as it was running on that device, I would have returned that phone in a week, maybe 2 at max. But iOS was just that good that I had to stay. And at some point, after using the phone for a while, all these issues kind of just went to the background and I didn't think about them anymore. And the thing keeping my attention away from all the issues that I just described a second ago was the Shortcuts app. And then I started discovering the joy of third-party applications on iOS. It seems like the developers are not just trying to push the applications as soon as possible. Instead, they're thinking about the core features of the operating system. They're thinking about other popular applications and how they can use their application to tie into them. For instance, Drafts is a free application that you can download to manage text primarily, but you can send that text to anywhere in the operating system. You can literally write a bunch of tasks and send it to Todoist, which are two completely different third-party applications interacting with each other as if they were meant to. And one of the things Android still does better is widgets. Despite the fact that iOS 14 got widgets, those widgets are not interactive. You can place them on home screen, but that's just a sticker that shows information from the applications. There is no input that you can provide to these widgets and interact with the application. That way, you will have to jump to the application no matter what widget we're talking about. In the same vein, I have another bone to pick with you all iOS lovers. Most iOS lovers describe iOS as the more intuitive operating system to get into, but I can't agree with that at all. There's definitely a level of simplicity when you talk about the surface level things, but as soon as you start getting into third-party applications and how their settings are managed, I mean between the settings that are stored in the settings app versus the settings that are stored in the application, it's just a pain. But I have to accept it, iOS 13 I loved for its automation, but it is the app library feature on iOS 14 that has made it so much better. Decluttering an iPhone has become so much easier. You can take all the dumb stupid icons on your home screen and dump it into the app library with one single swipe. Over time, I've really come to appreciate the camera capabilities on the iOS or just iPhone devices in general. But there are some iOS trickeries that you need to experience to be able to appreciate it. For instance, you can enable portrait mode in almost all third-party applications directly from the control center, or being able to strip all the metadata, especially the location data, when you're sharing photos to a third-party application. Those are only 2 of those features, but there's a lot of such features that never get advertised, and you only learn to love them when you start living with an iPhone. And add to that, those features have been added to some of the cheapest iPhones available on the market today. Because of these little core features that are unique to like the Apple ecosystem applications, you can say at this point in time, I am getting sucked into the ecosystem. When I first moved to iOS, this is not something applicable to everybody. I had a significant battery upgrade because I moved from Galaxy S9, one of the worst battery life that is available on any Galaxy device ever. Apologies for changing the camera angle and the microphone. My camera just died and I'm going to be recording the rest of the video on my phone. Talking about battery life, the battery life on iPhones are generally very good. And if you are ever in need of a charger and you live in iOS land, which is America, you can even go up to a stranger and ask for a charger and they will more than likely have an iPhone charger. A few more perks that you get when you get an iOS device include great accessories for almost all iPhones. I do miss my Android sometimes, and for that reason alone, I still carry a Galaxy Note 20 device as my work phone. It gives me access to all the features I was missing so much on the iPhone devices, such as split screen multitasking, it is something that you will start missing once you don't have access to it. As of right now, I use a Windows computer, and sending files from my iPhone device to my PC is a pain. And then there's Samsung DeX. I used to have access to Samsung DeX even on Galaxy S9, so my Galaxy Note 20 gives me access to that as well. On iOS devices, if you guys don't know, if you download Chrome, you're still running Safari engine in the background. So you will never have an application that runs anything but the Safari engine for web rendering. If you're still watching this video, I'm glad I was able to hold your attention for this long. If you have a few more seconds, can you write the name of your first smartphone in the comment section below? And I can tell you my first smartphone was a Sony Xperia Neo.